The widowed millionaire wouldn't talk to anyone until the maid arrived with her son and... Michael Harrison had been sitting at table 12 of the Grand Royal Hotel for over 3 hours, completely ignoring the businessmen trying to greet him or the women approaching with calculated smiles. The most important charity event in New York City was happening around him, but he remained still, absently fiddling with the wedding ring he still wore on his finger. Then he saw Samantha Williams rushing into the main hall, clearly late and visibly nervous. She held the hand of a little boy, no more than 5 years old, who wore a dark suit and carried something in his pocket. Michael recognized his housekeeper immediately, but had never seen her like this, elegant in a red dress that accentuated her natural beauty. "Mommy, why is that man so sad?" asked Noah, discreetly pointing at Michael. Samantha followed her son's gaze and sighed. She knew exactly why her employer was sitting there alone, untouched by the food or conversation. 8 months had passed since he lost his wife and young son in that terrible accident, and Michael had become a shadow of himself. "Don't point, sweetheart, and keep your voice down," Samantha murmured, trying to steer him away. "Let's find the table where I'm working today." But Noah had already slipped from her grasp and was walking determinedly toward Michael. Samantha's heart raced. She knew her employer wasn't in any state to handle interruptions, especially from a child. She tried to reach him, but Noah was faster. "Hi, mister," Noah said, stopping beside Michael's chair. "My mom says you're going through a hard time." Michael looked up for the first time in hours. He met Noah's angelic face, staring at him with innocent curiosity and a compassion that shouldn't exist in someone so small. "Noah, come here right now," Samantha said quickly, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Harrison, he shouldn't have bothered you." "Wait," Michael said, surprising even himself by speaking. His voice came out hoarse, as if unused for too long. "It's fine, let him stay." Noah smiled and pulled something from his jacket pocket, a crumpled piece of paper, folded several times. With the careful hands of a child, he unfolded it and handed it to Michael. "I made this for you, mister. My mom always says a drawing can brighten anyone's day." Michael took the paper with trembling hands. It was a simple crayon drawing, 2 figures holding hands beneath a colorful rainbow. Above them, written in a child's shaky handwriting, were the words, "Happy Family." For a moment, the luxurious hall faded around Michael. He was back in his son's room a year and a half ago, watching Mikey make the exact same kind of drawing. The same technique, the same colors, even the way the rainbow curved on the paper. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. "Where did you learn to draw like this?" Michael asked, his voice quiet and controlled. But Samantha heard the emotion beneath the words. "Mommy taught me," Noah said proudly. "She makes really pretty rainbows." Michael looked at Samantha, who had gone pale. She recognized that expression on her employer's face, the same one he wore whenever something reminded him of the family he'd lost. "Samantha, where did you learn this technique?" Michael asked, slowly rising from his chair. She hesitated, her hands trembling slightly. "Someone taught me a long time ago, Mr. Harrison, when I was just a child." "Who?" The question sounded more like a plea. Samantha looked around the ballroom, noticing that some people were beginning to observe the conversation. It wasn't common to see the most influential businessman in New York City talking to a housekeeper in the middle of a social event. "A very kind young woman who works at an orphanage nearby," Samantha said, lowering her voice. "She went every week to teach the children how to draw. She said art was a way to express what we couldn't put into words." Michael's world stopped. He knew only one person who said those exact words, who visited orphanages weekly, who taught children to draw rainbows in that specific way. "What was her name?" he asked, almost whispering. "Elizabeth. Elizabeth Harrison." The drawing slipped from Michael's hands and fell to the floor. Samantha quickly bent down to pick it up, but when she stood, she saw tears streaming down her employer's face. It was the first time she had seen him cry since the tragedy. "Mr. Harrison?" Samantha murmured, concerned. "Are you all right?" Elizabeth was my wife, he said, his voice breaking. Noah, who had been watching everything with the seriousness of a child sensing something important, tugged on Michael's jacket sleeve. Did you know the pretty lady who taught drawing? I did, Michael replied, crouching to the boy's level. She was my family. And where is she now? Noah asked, with the cruel innocence of children. Samantha quickly took her son's hand. Noah, don't ask questions. No, it's all right, Michael said, wiping his eyes. She had to go very far away, Noah, a place people can't come back from. Noah processed the information with the simple wisdom of childhood. That's why you're sad. That's why I'm sad, Michael confirmed. But the Lady Elizabeth taught me that when we're sad, we should make beautiful things to remember the people we love, Noah said, taking the drawing back from Samantha. She said love doesn't go away, it just turns into other good things. Michael felt as if he'd been punched in the chest. Those were the exact words Elizabeth used to tell the children at the orphanage, the same ones she whispered to him on difficult nights when business wasn't going well or when he felt overwhelmed. Do you remember her? Michael asked Samantha. How could I forget? She replied with a sad smile. She saved my life when I was 12. I'd been at St. Mary's orphanage for 3 years when she started coming. It wasn't just the drawings. She brought food, clothes, talked to each child individually. She made sure to know our names, our dreams. She never told me details about the children, Michael said. She said they were sacred confidences. That's just how she was. She respected our privacy, but never let us feel forgotten. Samantha paused for a moment, lost in memories. When I turned 15, she helped me find my first job. She was the one who gave me the reference to work at Mrs. Margaret's house, my first job as a maid. Michael absorbed every word. Elizabeth always came home on weekends with stories about her kids, as she affectionately called the orphans. She spoke of one especially bright girl who dreamed of having a family, who drew rainbows in her school notebooks. You're Sammy, he said suddenly. Elizabeth always talked about a Sammy who wanted to be a mother when she grew up, who looked after the younger ones at the orphanage like they were her siblings. Samantha's eyes widened. She talked about me. Always. She said you had a heart as big as the world and that one day you'd be a wonderful mother. Michael glanced at Noah, who was listening intently. She was right. At that moment, Noah began to cough. At first it seemed like a normal cough, but it quickly grew worse. The boy brought his hands to his chest and began to gasp. Noah? Samantha knelt beside her son, alarmed. What's happening, sweetheart? The cough had gotten worse. Noah tried to speak but couldn't catch his breath. His face turned red, then bluish. He's not doing well, said Michael, immediately scooping Noah into his arms. We need to take him to the hospital. Now. No, he gets like this sometimes, Samantha said, trying to stay calm, but her voice betrayed her panic. It passes in a few minutes. But it didn't pass. Noah lost consciousness in Michael's arms, his small body going limp like a rag doll. Samantha, let's go, Michael said, already striding toward the exit. My car's out front. Samantha followed, tears streaming freely down her face. In the car, she held Noah's hand while Michael drove at a dangerous speed through the streets of New York City to Mercy General Hospital. Has he had episodes like this before? Michael asked as he rushed down the hospital corridors with Noah in his arms. A few times. The doctors said it's severe asthma, but Samantha stopped speaking, biting her lower lip. But what, Samantha? But I think it's something more serious. He's been exhausted, losing weight. I work 3 different jobs to pay for the tests, but even then I can't afford all the ones the doctors ordered. Michael stopped walking and looked directly at her. 3 jobs? Besides your house, I clean offices overnight and care for an elderly woman on weekends, Samantha said, meeting his gaze. Noah needs those tests, Mr. Harrison. I'll do whatever it takes. At that moment, a nurse approached them. Family of Noah Williams? Yes, Michael and Samantha answered in unison. The nurse glanced between them, confused but didn't comment. The doctor wants to speak with you. The boy is stable, but he needs some urgent tests. Dr. Robert Miller was a 50-year-old man with kind but serious eyes. He greeted them in his office with a concerned expression. "Mrs. Williams, I need to be direct. Noah is showing signs of a congenital heart condition. The coughing, exhaustion, weight loss, it all points to the problem worsening." Samantha collapsed into the chair. "What does that mean?" "It means he'll need surgery, soon. Without it..." The doctor paused, choosing his words carefully. "Without it, his condition will continue to deteriorate." "How much does the surgery cost?" Michael asked. "Through the public system, it would be free. But the waiting list is long, very long, and from what I'm seeing here, Noah can't wait that long." "How much privately?" Michael pressed. "About $120,000, including all procedures and recovery." Samantha let out a desperate whimper. "Doctor, I'll never be able to save that much, even if I work 20 hours a day for the rest of my life." "I'll pay," Michael said, just like that. Samantha and the doctor stared at him in surprise. "Mr. Harrison, you don't have to..." "I said I'll pay," Michael repeated firmly. "Run the tests, schedule the surgery. I'll cover the costs." Dr. Miller looked relieved. "Very well. I'll arrange everything. Noah will stay overnight for observation, and we'll begin preparations first thing tomorrow." When they left the doctor's office, Samantha gripped Michael's arm. "Why are you doing this?" Michael held her gaze for a long moment. "Because Elizabeth would have done the same, and because maybe this is what I need to do to honor her memory." They returned to the room where Noah lay sleeping, sedated and hooked to machines. Samantha sat in the chair beside the bed and took her son's small hand. "You know, Mr. Harrison," she said, not taking her eyes off Noah, "Elizabeth once told me something I've never forgotten. She said people come into our lives for a reason. Some to teach us, others for us to learn from them, and others still to give us a second chance to do the right thing." "What do you think we are?" asked Michael, sitting in the chair on the other side of the bed. "I don't know yet," replied Samantha, "but I have a feeling we're figuring it out." The next morning, Michael arrived at the hospital in casual clothes, something Samantha had never seen him wear before. He carried a tablet and a folder full of papers. "How did he sleep?" he asked, approaching the bed where Noah was resting. "Fine. He woke up a few times, but the doctors said it's normal." Samantha looked exhausted. It was obvious she hadn't slept. "You need to rest. I'll stay with him." "I can't. I have to work. Mrs. Margaret called me yesterday. She needs me to organize a party tonight." Michael looked at her in disbelief. "Samantha, your son is in the hospital. You're not going to work." "Mr. Harrison, with all due respect, I have to work. Even if you're paying for the surgery, I have other bills. Rent, food, Noah's clothes." "How many children do you have?" Michael suddenly asked. The question caught Samantha off guard. "Just Noah. Why? And his father?" Samantha looked away, clearly uncomfortable. "He's not part of our lives." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now back to the story. Michael realized he'd touched on a sensitive subject and didn't press further. Instead, he opened the tablet and began typing. "What are you doing?" asked Samantha. "Transferring $50,000 to your account. It's an advance on your salary. About 10 years' worth, maybe," he said without looking up. "Mr. Harrison, I can't accept this." "Yes, you can, and you will." He finally met her gaze. "Elizabeth always said helping people isn't charity when love is involved. It's family. But I'm not your family." "Not yet," said Michael, and something in his tone made Samantha realize he wasn't just talking about the money. Noah woke up in the afternoon, more alert than he'd been in days. When he saw Michael sitting by the bed, he smiled. "Hi, Uncle Michael," he said, his voice weak but cheerful. "Hey, champ, how are you feeling?" "Better. The doctors here are nice. Nurse Anna brought me crayons and paper to draw." Noah showed off his new drawings. Several were scattered across the bed, houses, trees, and of course, rainbows. "This one's special," he said, picking up a particular drawing. "It's for you." It showed 3 people holding hands under a rainbow, a woman with long hair, a little boy, and a tall man. "It's the 3 of us," Noah explained. "You, me, and Mommy, like a family." Michael felt a lump in his throat. "Why did you draw me with you?" because you took care of me. And Miss Elizabeth taught me that family isn't just who you're born with. It's who chooses to stay when things get hard. Samantha, who had stepped out to speak with the nurses, returned just then and saw the drawing in Michael's hands, her face filled with an expression mixing tenderness and worry. "Noah, you shouldn't bother Mr. Harrison with these things." "He's not bothering me," said Michael, carefully tucking the drawing away. "In fact, I think he's helping me understand a few things." That night, after Noah fell asleep, Michael and Samantha stepped into the hospital hallway. It was the first time they'd been alone since this whole situation began. "Can I ask you a personal question?" said Michael. Samantha nodded, though her tense posture suggested she'd rather avoid the topic. "Noah's father. Does he know his son is sick?" Samantha took a deep breath. "He doesn't even know he has a son." The answer surprised Michael. "What do you mean?" "When I found out I was pregnant, I was 19. I worked as a nanny for a wealthy family here in New York City. Noah's father was the eldest son of the family. And he didn't want to take responsibility? He never knew." Samantha leaned against the wall, as if carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. "When I told his mother I was pregnant, she offered me money to have an abortion. When I refused, she fired me and threatened me. Said if I ever tried to contact her son, she'd make my life a living hell. And you accepted that." "I was 19, Mr. Harrison, an orphan, no family, no money. She had power, influence, lawyers. What could I do?" Michael felt anger rising inside him. "What's the name of that family?" "Why do you want to know?" "Because I have influence too. And money. And better lawyers." Samantha shook her head. "I don't want that life for Noah. I don't want him growing up in the middle of fights and legal battles. I'd rather he keep believing his father just isn't around." "And what if his father wanted to meet him? If he knew about Noah?" "That won't happen. It's been 6 years. If he wanted to find me, he would have by now." Michael fell silent for a moment, processing the information. "Samantha, can I suggest something?" "Of course." "After Noah recovers from surgery, come live in my house. Not as an employee, but as family. I have empty rooms, I have resources, and Noah will need special care during his recovery." Samantha looked at him with a mix of gratitude and suspicion. "Why would you do this for us?" "Because the two of you brought me back to life. Because Elizabeth would have approved, and because—" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because 8 months ago I lost my family and didn't know how to move forward. Maybe God is giving me a second chance. What if it doesn't work? What if we realize we're too different? Then at least we'll have tried. But Samantha, look at your son. Look how he drew us together. Children sometimes see truths adults can't." The next morning, Dr. Miller brought good news. "The tests show Noah is a perfect candidate for surgery. We found an opening in the schedule for tomorrow morning." "So soon?" Samantha asked nervously. "It's better not to delay. The longer we wait, the more complicated it could get," the doctor explained. "But I want you to know the chances of success are excellent. Noah is young, strong, and his heart has responded well to medication." That afternoon, while Noah rested, an elegant middle-aged woman appeared at the hospital. She wore expensive clothes and carried an air of authority that immediately put Samantha on edge. "Are you Samantha Williams?" the woman asked, stopping at the door of the room. "I am. Who are you?" "I'm Victoria Worthington. I need to speak with you privately." Samantha glanced at Michael, who was helping Noah with a puzzle. "About what?" "About your son, and about certain situations that could affect his future." Michael looked up, sensing the tension in the woman's voice. "May I ask who you are?" "I'm the legal representative of the Worthington family, and I've come with an offer Ms. Williams shouldn't refuse." Samantha felt her blood run cold. Worthington. That was the surname of the family she had worked for 6 years ago, the family of Noah's father. "What do you want?" Samantha asked, trying to stay calm. "First, that you stop taking advantage of Mr. Harrison's kindness here. Second, that you accept our financial offer and move far away from New York City." "By what right do you—" Michael began. "By the right that money and power give us, Mr. Harrison," Victoria interrupted. The Worthington family built an empire over decades. We won't allow some opportunist to destroy our reputation." Noah, who was pretending to sleep, opened one eye and saw the argument. Even without fully understanding what was happening, he sensed the woman was being cruel to his mother. "What are you talking about?" Michael asked. Victoria smiled coldly. "Has Mrs. Williams not told you? 6 years ago, she tried to blackmail our family by claiming she was pregnant with my youngest son, Richard. Naturally, we paid her to disappear." "That's not true," Samantha said, her hands shaking with anger. "You threatened me. You forced me to leave the city. And now you're back, conveniently needing money for a sick child's treatment," Victoria continued. "What a fortunate coincidence that you found another wealthy man to manipulate." Michael rose from his chair, his face darkening with anger. "Ma'am, I suggest you take back what you just said. Mr. Harrison, you seem like an intelligent man. Surely you realize you're being used. This woman has a history of taking advantage of men in vulnerable situations." "That's a lie," Samantha burst out. "I never asked anyone for anything. I never tried to blackmail your family. All I wanted was to work in peace and raise my son." "And where is this child's father then?" Victoria asked with a venomous smile. "If he's really Richard's son, why isn't he here taking responsibility?" "Because he doesn't know he has a son," Samantha replied, tears beginning to fall. "Because you stopped me from telling him." "Mommy." Noah sat up in bed, clearly frightened by the raised voices. "Why are you crying?" Victoria looked at Noah for the first time, and Michael saw her expression shift. The coldness gave way to something like recognition, maybe even shock. "How old is he?" Victoria asked, her voice quieter. 5, Samantha answered, instinctively pulling Noah closer. Victoria kept staring at Noah as if seeing a ghost. "He has Richard's eyes, and the shape of our family's face." "Ma'am, I think it's best you leave," Michael said, stepping between Victoria and the bed. "This child is recovering from a serious condition and doesn't need this stress." "Wait," Victoria said, raising her hand. "I need to ask some questions." "You're not asking anything," Samantha interrupted. "You had 6 years to show interest. You can't show up now demanding rights over my son." "Our rights?" Victoria laughed bitterly. "Mrs. Williams, if this child is truly a Worthington grandchild, then he has rights. Rights to inheritance, medical care, education. Things you clearly can't provide." "I can provide them," Michael said. "And I will." Victoria studied him with new interest. "Excuse me, Mr. Harrison, but who exactly are you in this family's life?" "I'm someone who cares, and that's more than you've ever been." "Uncle Michael," Noah said, reaching for him. "Is that lady being mean to Mommy?" "Don't worry, champ. She's leaving," Michael said, taking Noah's hand. Victoria watched their interaction, her face hardening again. "This conversation isn't over. We'll find out the truth about this child. And if he really is a Worthington grandchild, we'll fight for our rights." "And I'll fight for Noah and Samantha's rights," Michael replied. "And I can assure you, I have more resources and better lawyers than you imagine." After Victoria left, the room fell silent. Noah looked confused between his mother and Michael, trying to understand what had happened. "Mommy, who was that lady?" Samantha sat on the bed and hugged him. "Someone from the past, sweetheart, no one important." "But she talked about my dad, right?" asked Noah, with the sharpness children often have. Samantha looked at Michael, who nodded encouragingly. "Yes, Noah, she knew your father. And why doesn't he come to see me?" Because it's complicated, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups make decisions that seem right at the time, but later they realize they were wrong." Noah processed the information quietly. "Will Uncle Michael still be my friend even if my dad shows up?" "Always," Michael replied without hesitation. "No matter what happens, Noah, you can count on me." On the morning of the surgery, Samantha was more nervous than Noah. The boy seemed to genuinely believe everything would be fine, while she imagined 1,000 worst-case scenarios. "Mom, can I take my drawing to the surgery?" Noah asked, holding up the paper where he'd drawn the 3 of them together. "I'm not sure if that's allowed, sweetheart." "I'll talk to the doctor," Michael said. "I'm sure we can figure something out." Dr. Miller was understanding. "We can laminate the drawing, and he can take it with him. In fact, it's good for him to have something familiar to look at when he wakes up. While Noah was being prepped for surgery, Samantha and Michael waited in the lobby. That was when Richard Worthington appeared. He was a man in his early 30s, tall, with the same light eyes as Noah. He wore casual but clearly expensive clothes and looked uneasy. "Samantha?" He approached hesitantly. "Are you Samantha Williams?" Samantha stood slowly, her face pale. "Richard, my mother told me about the child, about Noah." "Your mother lied to you," Samantha said, finding strength in her anger. "She drove me out of the city. She kept me from telling you about the pregnancy." Richard looked genuinely shocked. "That can't be true. She told me you tried to blackmail us." "And you believed her?" Samantha asked. "Knowing your mother, knowing how she treats people she considers beneath her, did you really think I'd do something like that?" Richard lowered his head. I was confused. I had just graduated, was starting to work for the family business. My mother said you'd disappeared, that it was probably all a lie anyway." "You could have looked for me," Samantha said, tears welling up again. "You could have found out the truth. I tried a few times, but you'd changed your number, your address. It seemed like you really didn't want to be found." Michael, who had been silently observing the conversation, finally spoke. "So now what? What do you want?" Richard looked at Michael as if only just noticing him. "Sorry, you are someone who cares about Samantha and Noah, someone who's been here when they needed someone." "I see." Richard turned back to Samantha. "Can I meet him? Noah?" "He's in surgery," Samantha said. "Heart surgery. Where were you when he was sick? Where were you when I was working 3 jobs to pay for his tests?" "I didn't know." "You didn't know because you didn't want to know," Samantha interrupted. "Because it was easier to believe your mother's version." Dr. Miller appeared in the waiting room, still in his surgical scrubs. His serious expression made Samantha's heart stop. "The surgery was a success," he said, and Samantha broke into tears of relief. "Noah is recovering well. In a few hours he'll wake up, and you can see him." Richard watched Samantha and Michael's reaction, seeing how they embraced in relief, as if they were truly a family. He felt a pang of something he couldn't quite place: jealousy, regret. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. When Noah woke up a few hours later, he was surrounded by machines, but his first instinct was to look for his drawing. Michael had stuck the laminated paper on the wall next to the bed, where Noah could easily see it. "Mommy?" murmured Noah, still drowsy from the medication. "I'm here, sweetheart," said Samantha, taking his hand. "How do you feel?" "Tired, but it doesn't hurt." Noah looked around and saw Michael. "Uncle Michael, you stayed here?" "Of course I did. I promised I wouldn't leave your side." Noah then noticed Richard, who was standing near the door. "Who's that?" Samantha and Michael exchanged glances. "Noah, this is Richard. He's your father." Noah studied Richard for a long moment. "You're really my dad?" "I am," Richard replied, stepping forward slowly. "And I'm sorry I wasn't here before." "Why weren't you?" The simple, direct question hit Richard like a punch to the gut. "Because I made some wrong choices, and because some people lied to me." "The mean grandma who came here yesterday?" Richard looked at Samantha, confused. "My mother was here." "She was," Michael said, his tone icy. "Trying to intimidate Samantha and threatening to take Noah." "She has no right to do that," Richard said, genuinely angry. "Noah is my son. I decide what's best for him." "Actually," Samantha said with a calm that surprised everyone, "I'm the one who decides what's best for Noah. I'm the one who raised him alone, who cared for him when he was sick, who worked 3 jobs to make sure he had everything he needed." "Samantha, I understand your anger." "No, Richard, you don't understand. You have no idea what it's like to wake up in the middle of the night with a child coughing up blood and not having the money to take him to the doctor. You don't know what it's like to lie to your son about why he doesn't have a father, because the truth is, his father just didn't care. Noah watched with wide eyes, absorbing every word. "Can you stop fighting?" he asked in a small voice. "I'm tired, and you're talking too loud." Everyone stopped immediately. Samantha leaned over the bed and kissed her son's forehead. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. We won't fight anymore." "Uncle Michael, can you stay by my side?" Noah asked. Michael sat in the chair next to the bed and took Noah's hand. "Always, champ." Noah looked at Richard. "Do you want to stay too?" Richard hesitated before stepping closer. "If your mother allows it." Noah turned to Samantha. "Mom, can he stay? Maybe if he gets to know me, he'll like me." The innocence of the words broke everyone's heart in the room. Samantha nodded, tears silently falling. "Of course, sweetheart. He can stay." In the days that followed, an odd routine settled in. Michael arrived early, brought Samantha breakfast and stayed all morning. Richard showed up at lunchtime and stayed until mid-afternoon. Samantha remained the whole time, sleeping in the armchair in the room. Noah was recovering quickly. The doctors were impressed with his progress, but more than that, he seemed to be thriving with all the attention he was getting. "Mum," Noah said one day after Richard had left, "why can't you and my dad be friends?" "It's complicated, Noah. But you both love me, right?" "Of course we do." "And you both like Uncle Michael?" Samantha glanced at Michael, who was pretending to read a magazine. "Yes, we do." "And Uncle Michael likes both of you?" "I do," Michael replied, lowering the magazine. "Then why can't you all be one big family, like those families in the movies with lots of people?" It was the simple, pure logic of a child, but it made all three adults pause. That night, after Noah had fallen asleep, Samantha and Michael talked in the hallway. "He's right, you know," Michael said. "Noah, about us trying to be a family. Michael, things are getting complicated. Richard showed up out of nowhere wanting rights over Noah. His mother is threatening lawsuits, and I don't know if I can handle all this." "You don't have to handle it alone, I'm here." Samantha looked at him with a mix of gratitude and something more. "Why, Michael? Why are you doing all this?" "Because..." He paused, searching for the right words. "Because Elizabeth always told me that love doesn't end when someone dies. It transforms. And I think the two of you are the transformation of the love I feel for her." "That's beautiful. But what if you're mistaking gratitude for love? What if in a few months you realize this was just an emotional impulse? What if it's not? What if it's real?" Samantha didn't know how to respond. The next morning, Noah was discharged from the hospital. Doctor Miller gave detailed instructions about the care he'd need in the coming weeks. No physical exertion for at least a month, medication strictly on schedule, and weekly checkups for monitoring. "Can we go home?" Noah asked excitedly. Samantha hesitated. Her home was a small apartment in a distant neighborhood, far from ideal for Noah's recovery. "Actually," Michael said, "I was thinking maybe you could stay at my house for a few weeks, until Noah is fully recovered." "Can we, Mom?" Noah pleaded. "Uncle Michael's house must be really cool." Richard, who was present, interrupted. "Maybe it'd be better for Noah to stay at my place. After all, I'm his father." "Do you have any experience taking care of children?" Samantha asked. "I can learn." "Noah needs stability right now," Michael said. "This isn't the time for experiments." "And who decided you know what's best for my son?" Richard shot back. "Enough!" Samantha raised her voice for the first time in days. "Noah is staying at my home, our home, where he's always lived." But when they arrived at Samantha's apartment, everyone realized it wasn't the ideal place for recovery. The building had no elevator, the apartment was on the third floor, and it was small and stuffy. "Mom, it's really hot in here," Noah murmured, clearly uncomfortable. "I'll turn on the fan, sweetheart." "Samantha," Michael said gently, "put your pride aside. Noah needs the best possible environment to recover." "And you think your house is better than ours?" "I think my house has air conditioning, spacious rooms, a pool where Noah can do physical therapy when the doctors allow it, and a kitchen where I can prepare the special meals he needs." Samantha looked around her apartment and sighed. Michael was right. Fine, but it's temporary just until he recovers. Of course, temporary. Michael's house was even more impressive than Samantha had imagined. It was a modern mansion in the Upper East Side, with vast gardens, a pool, and every luxury money could buy. "Wow!" Noah exclaimed as they entered. "It's like a castle." "Pick any room you want, champ," Michael said. Noah chose a room on the second floor with a view of the garden. Michael had arranged for a TV to be installed and bought some age-appropriate toys. "Thank you, Uncle Michael," Noah said, hugging his legs. Samantha watched the scene with mixed emotions. Gratitude, yes, but also a pang of inadequacy. How could she compete with all this? "Samantha, your room is next to Noah's," Michael said. "I thought it'd be easier for you to hear if he needs anything during the night." "Thank you. That's very kind." That first night in Michael's house, Noah slept deeply for the first time in weeks. Samantha, however, lay awake, staring out the bedroom window, thinking about how drastically her life had changed in such a short time. A soft knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Can I come in?" It was Michael. "Of course." He entered carrying 2 cups of tea. "I thought you might be having trouble sleeping." "It's hard to process all of this," admitted Samantha, accepting the tea. "A week ago, I was working 3 jobs and worried about how to pay for Noah's medical tests. Now I'm living in a mansion and my son is recovering from surgery that cost more money than I make in 5 years. And how do you feel about that?" Grateful, confused, scared. Scared of what? Scared of getting used to this. Scared of Noah getting used to it. Scared of when we have to go back to our real life. Michael sat in the armchair by the window. "What if you didn't have to go back?" "Michael, this isn't our life, this is fantasy. Why can't it be real? Because you're a millionaire who just lost his family and might be mistaking loneliness for love. And I'm an orphaned housekeeper and single mother who will never belong in this world." "Samantha, look at me," said Michael, standing and stepping closer. "Do you think I'm the kind of person who makes important decisions based only on emotion? I don't know what kind of person you are. Until a week ago, our relationship was strictly professional." "Was it?" "Because I remember all the conversations we've had over these 2 years. I remember how you always asked how I was doing after the accident, how you left little encouraging notes with my breakfast, how Noah would always draw me little cards that you discreetly gave me." Samantha blushed. "I was just being kind." "No, Samantha. You were being family. Even before we discovered the connection to Elizabeth, the 2 of you were already part of my life." Before Samantha could respond, they heard footsteps running down the hallway. "Mom, Uncle Michael." Noah appeared in the doorway, breathless. "You have to see this." They followed him to his room where he had opened the curtains and was pointing outside. Look out there." In the garden, illuminated by moonlight and the backyard lights, dozens of fireflies danced among the trees, creating a magical spectacle. "I've never seen so many fireflies together," murmured Samantha, awestruck. "Elizabeth always said fireflies were signs that the people we love are nearby, watching over us," said Michael, his voice thick with emotion. Noah looked at him curiously. "Miss Elizabeth said that?" "She did. Whenever we saw fireflies, she said they were messages of love." "So is she here?" asked Noah, pressing his face against the glass. "Maybe she is, champ, maybe she is." The 3 stood in silence, watching the fireflies dance. Noah was the first to speak. "I think she's happy with us." The next morning, Richard arrived at Michael's house. This time he wasn't alone. An older woman accompanied him, and Samantha immediately recognized her as Victoria Worthington. "I've come for my son," said Richard without preamble. "Noah is doing physical therapy in the pool," said Michael, keeping his composure. "It's not a good time for visitors." "I'm not here for a visit," said Richard. "I'm here to take Noah home." "Home?" asked Samantha, stepping out of the kitchen where she had been preparing Noah's afternoon snack. "What home?" "Our home," interrupted Victoria, "where he should have been from the beginning." "Noah already has a home," said Samantha firmly. "With me." "Ms. Williams," said Victoria, in that condescending tone Samantha remembered well. "Let's be practical. You're a single woman with no means working as a housekeeper. We can give Noah top-tier education, medical care, opportunities you could never provide." "And love?" asked Samantha. "Can you give him love?" Of course we can, said Richard. He's my son. Being a father isn't just about genetics, Richard. It's about being there. It's about caring for them when they're sick. It's about working 3 jobs if you have to, just to make sure they have what they need. Mom? Noah appeared in the living room, still wearing his swim trunks and a towel. What's going on? Nothing, sweetheart. Go get changed, said Samantha. Did Dad and Grandma come to pick me up? Asked Noah, looking at Richard and Victoria. We'd like you to come see our home, said Richard, crouching down to Noah's level. Would you like that? Noah looked at Samantha, then at Michael, then back at Richard. Can I take Mommy and Uncle Michael with me? Well, not exactly, said Richard. Just you to start. Then I don't want to go, Noah said simply. I want to stay with my family. Noah, I'm your father. I'm your real family. Uncle Michael is my family too, and he was here when I was sick. Victoria grew impatient. Richard, stop asking. You have legal rights. Use them. Mrs. Worthington, said Michael, his voice low but threatening, I suggest you think carefully before trying to use the law against us. Oh, really? And why's that? Because I have enough money to hire the best lawyers in the country, because I have enough influence to make sure everyone knows how your family treats single mothers and underprivileged children, and because I have 0 patience for people who try to use children as trophies. You have no legal rights over this child, said Victoria. Not yet, Michael replied, looking straight at Samantha. But that could change. Samantha understood the implication and felt her heart race. Noah, go to your room, she said gently. The adults need to talk. After Noah left, the tension in the room thickened. What do you mean that could change? Asked Richard. I mean that if Samantha agrees to marry me, I'll become Noah's stepfather. And I'll have legal rights to protect him. Are you proposing marriage as a legal strategy? Samantha asked, disbelieving. No, said Michael, taking her hands. I'm proposing marriage because I love you and Noah. The legal protection is just a bonus. Samantha felt the world spinning around her. Michael. Samantha, I know this is fast. I know everything has happened so quickly. But sometimes love comes like lightning. Elizabeth taught me that when we find the right people, we shouldn't waste time being afraid. This is ridiculous, said Victoria. A marriage of convenience to avoid a custody battle. There's nothing convenient about this marriage, Michael said, still looking at Samantha. There's love, there's family, there's a future. Things you'll never understand. Richard looked devastated. Samantha, are you really going to do this? Marry him to keep me from knowing my son? This isn't about you, Richard, Samantha said, finally finding her voice. It was never about you, it's about Noah. It's about what's best for him. And you think growing up in a fake family is best for him? Fake family? Samantha turned to him, eyes blazing. Richard, you disappeared for 6 years. Michael has been in Noah's life for 2 years, every single day, even before he knew Noah existed. Who do you think is the real family here? Victoria played her last card. If you marry, we'll sue for parental alienation. We'll prove this marriage is a sham to undermine Richard's rights. Good luck, said Michael, but I suggest you consult your lawyers first, because I've already consulted mine. After Richard and Victoria left, Samantha sank heavily onto the couch. Did you really mean what you said? She asked. About marriage? Every word, Michael replied, sitting beside her. Samantha, I know this isn't the dream proposal. I know the circumstances aren't ideal, but my feelings are real. How can you be sure? Everything has happened so fast. I can be sure because you and Noah brought back a part of me I thought I'd lost forever. I can be sure because when I see Noah, I see Elizabeth's kindness. When I look at you, I see her strength. You don't replace the family I lost, but you give me a new chance to have one. And what if it doesn't work? What if we find out we're not compatible? Then at least we'll have tried. But Samantha, look around you. See how happy Noah is here. See how well you fit into this house, this life. Doesn't it feel right to you? Before Samantha could answer, Noah returned, already dressed. Are you still talking about grown-up stuff? Actually, said Michael, looking at Samantha, We were talking about family. What kind of family talk? Noah, Samantha took a deep breath. How would you feel if Uncle Michael and I got married? If we became a real family? Noah looked between them, processing the question. Do you two love each other? The child's direct question once again disarmed the adults. Yes, Michael said without hesitation. I love your mother. Noah turned to Samantha. And you, Mom? Do you love Uncle Michael? Samantha felt every defense she'd built over the years crumble. Yes, Noah, I love Uncle Michael. Then of course I want you to get married, Noah said excitedly. Can we have a party? We can have whatever party you want, champ, Michael said, smiling. And can I still call you Uncle Michael? I like that better than Dad. Call me whatever you want, Noah, as long as you let me be part of your life. Noah threw himself into Michael's arms, then pulled Samantha into the hug too. Now we're a family, just like in my drawing, he said happily. 6 months later, the chapel at Grace Community Church was decorated with simple flowers and a few close friends. Samantha wore a modest white dress, Noah carried the rings on a satin cushion, and Michael couldn't stop smiling. The ceremony was simple but moving. When the priest asked if there was any reason the marriage shouldn't proceed, Richard stood from the back row. I do, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Samantha's heart stopped. Michael tensed. Speak, the priest said. I just need to say... I wish them happiness, Richard said, surprising everyone. It took me a long time to understand, but Noah is with the right family, with the people who truly love him. Samantha looked at him with surprise and gratitude. Richard nodded discreetly and left the church. The reception was held in the garden of the house, under the same trees where they'd seen fireflies months earlier. Noah insisted on making a speech. I want to thank everyone for coming to my new family's party, he said, standing on a chair to be taller. My Uncle Michael is my dad now too, and my mum is really happy. And I'm happy because now I have 2 dads, Uncle Michael, who takes care of me every day, and Richard, who's learning to be a dad little by little. Noah's simplicity and wisdom moved many guests to tears. Later, when the guests had left and Noah was asleep, Samantha and Michael walked through the garden. No regrets? Michael asked. None, Samantha answered, lacing her fingers with his. And you? Just one. Samantha stopped walking, concerned. What? That it took me so long to find you, Michael said, pulling her into an embrace. That night the fireflies returned, and this time Samantha also believed Elizabeth was nearby, blessing the new family formed through love, loss, and second chances. In his room, Noah slept soundly, clutching the laminated drawing that had stayed with him during his surgery. It was a picture of 3 people under a rainbow, but now he'd added a 4th figure, a woman with wings, who he said was Miss Elizabeth, watching over them all from heaven. The end of the story. So, what did you think of this tale of love, resilience, and family? Let us know in the comments which part was your favorite, and whether you believe love can truly blossom in the most unexpected situations. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like for more heartwarming stories like this one.